The phone starts screaming at 6:59 a.m. It's that awful. Blaring radar tone, the one you've been meaning to change for 3 years. Your hand smacks it silent in the dark. For a second, there's just the hum of the refrigerator and the soft glow of your laptop screen, still open on your pillow. You never actually closed it last night. Just paused. The screen shows 37 unanswered emails, and a Slack notification slides into view. Hey, quick question when you get a sec? You're already behind, and you haven't even lifted your head. This is Sarah's morning. Well, Sarah Cho, 29, digital marketing specialist, living in a 420 square foot studio in Chicago's Lakeview neighborhood. Her tiny apartment smells faintly of yesterday's microwave popcorn and ambition. The date is Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. The sun isn't up yet over Lake Michigan, but the blue light from her screen paints her tired face. Her body feels heavy like she slept in concrete. There's a low buzz in her temples, the leftover static from a brain that wouldn't shut off. She'd been dreaming about spreadsheets. She sits up, the blanket falling away, and her bare feet touch the cool hardwood floor. The first sound of her day is the frantic clack of her keyboard, answering that quick question before she even brushes her teeth. It's a simple answer, really. Takes her 12 seconds. But it's not the task, it's the tide. That one message is the first wave of a tsunami that will hit her between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. She can already feel it pulling at her ankles. By 8:45 a.m., she's at her desk in a WeWork-turned-corporate office near the Loop, a lukewarm oat milk latte in hand. Her calendar is a catastrophe of color-coded blocks. Back-to-back video calls from 9 to 11:30. A working lunch where she is supposed to brainstorm social media captions, then more meetings. Her own work, the actual reports and campaigns she has measured on, is crammed into the focus time. She boldly scheduled from 4 to 5 p.m., a joke she tells herself every day. The frustration isn't in one big thing. It's in 1,000 tiny paper cuts. It's the ding of a Slack message in the middle of her only productive thought. It's the sinking feeling in her stomach when her manager's name pops up on her phone at 5:42 p.m. with a on a document she sent yesterday. It's volunteering for the culture committee because she was told it looks good, and now she's spending her Wednesday night choosing virtual background themes for the next all-hands meeting. Sarah looks the part. She's the go-to, the reliable one. The one who says, "I'm on it," with a thumbs-up emoji. Her colleagues call her a rock star. But here's the secret she feels in her bones every night, staring at her ceiling. She's running a marathon on a treadmill. The applause is noise. She's not moving an inch forward. Last week, the promotion she'd been working toward for 18 months went to Jason from the West Coast office. Jason, who posts about deep work and protecting your energy. Jason, who was never in the urgent Slack channel after 5 p.m. Sarah had stayed late for 6 months straight, had taken on 3 of her former manager's projects when he left, had said yes to every single request. And for what? We're so grateful for all you do. Shout out in a Teams channel and a $500 bonus. Jason got the title, the $25,000 raise, and the key to the executive lunchroom. So here's a question for you. Be honest with yourself. It might make you a little uncomfortable. What if everything you've been taught about getting ahead at work is a script? A script written to keep you exhausted, just productive enough and exactly where you are? Look around your own life. The red notification bubble you feel compelled to clear. The sigh you let out when you see a meeting invite for a project you have nothing to do with. The way you anxiously watch your mouse cursor, making sure the little green active dot stays on in Slack so everyone knows your asterisk, their asterisk, you're performing. You're following a map that promises a destination, but the destination never gets any closer. I want you to picture Sarah at 7 p.m. that night. The office is quiet, just the hum of the VFAK and the cleaning crew's vacuum in the distance. Her screen is the only light. She's finishing a deck for tomorrow, a deck that could have been done at 3 p.m. if she hadn't been in 4 other meetings about it. Her stomach growls. She's hungry, but more than that, she's empty. She feels a dull ache behind her eyes, and her shoulders are tight knots of tension. She packs up, walks to the L train in the chilly March wind. The train car is mostly empty. She stares at her reflection in the dark window, a woman in a nice coat, looking successful, feeling completely lost. She believes a lie. A lie that sounds like truth because everyone around her is whispering it. The lie is this: your worth is your output. The more you do, the more valuable you are. But what if that's the trap? What if hustling harder is the very thing keeping you stuck? Because here's a number that changed everything for me. A 2024 Gallup study found something shocking. The employees who are the most engaged, the ones saying yes to everything, burning the midnight oil. They are 21% more likely to experience daily burnout. Let that sink in. The hard work strategy isn't just not working. It's actively backfiring. Sarah gets home. She kicks off her shoes. The silence of her apartment is louder than the office. She doesn't turn on the TV. She just sits on her couch in the dark, feeling the weight of it all. The promotion that didn't come. The years slipping by. The constant, buzzing anxiety that she's not doing enough, even though she's doing everything. This is the wake-up call. Not a loud alarm, but a quiet, dreadful realization in a dark room. The map is wrong. And the path you're on doesn't lead to where you want to go. It leads to more dark rooms, more cold lattes, more silent train rides home. But here is the most important thing I will tell you today. It is not your fault. You are not lazy. You are not falling behind. You are following broken directions. And the moment Sarah realized that, sitting on her couch that night is the moment everything can begin to change. Because the first step to getting somewhere new is to stop walking down the wrong road. Sarah didn't quit that night on the couch. She didn't rage apply to new jobs or dramatically tell off her boss. That's what the movies tell you happens. Real life is quieter. She just carried on, but something had cracked open. A tiny, nagging question had gotten in. And over the next few weeks, that question started to change how she saw everything. It was a Tuesday morning, and she was in her third video call of the day. It was a project sync for a campaign she was barely involved in. Her camera was on, of course. She had a polite, slightly attentive look on her face, a skill she'd mastered. She was nodding along, but her mind was miles away. Or more accurately, it was in her inbox, screaming about the quarterly report due in 2 hours that she hadn't started. Her manager, Linda, was talking. "We really need a hero on this one," Linda said, her voice tinny through the laptop speakers. "The client moved the deadline up. Who can step up and own this?" Sarah's body reacted before her brain did. Her hand twitched, her spine straightened. A little jolt of adrenaline, of importance, shot through her. Her mouth was practically forming the words, "I can take a look." It was a reflex, like catching a ball thrown at your face. But this time she paused. That tiny crack from the couch let in a sliver of light. Why? The question whispered. Why does it always have to be you? She stayed silent for 3 agonizing seconds. The silence in the meeting felt huge. Then a newer team member, a guy named Ben, spoke up. "I've got some capacity this week. I can own the first draft." The meeting moved on. Sarah felt a bizarre cocktail of relief and panic. Relief because she'd dodged another bullet, panic because what if they didn't need her bullet dodging anymore? What if her whole value was based on being the human shield for last-minute work? That's when she started to see the pattern. The trap. And it wasn't about hard work. It was about identity. Sarah had built an identity at work. She was the hero, the reliable one, the martyr. She was the one who carried the heaviest load, who stayed the latest, who saved the projects. It felt good, in a twisted way. It felt like purpose. When people said, "Ask Sarah," it was a hit of validation. When she solved the crisis at 7 p.m., there was a ragged, exhausted pride in it. She was needed. She was indispensable. But here's the brutal truth she was starting to glimpse. Heroes don't get promoted. They get statues built right where they fell. They get remembered for the battle they fought, not the kingdom they get to rule. The villain here isn't her boss. It isn't the company. It's a single, powerful, false belief she'd been carrying around like a lucky charm that had actually cursed her. The belief was this: if I stop being the hero, I will become irrelevant. Asterisk, if I don't say yes, if I don't stay late, if I don't have all the answers, then I will fade away. I will be safe, replaceable, ordinary. Let me tell you about my friend Alex, not his real name, but a very real story. Alex was a rockstar software engineer in Austin. He was the firefighter. Anytime the website crashed or a critical bug appeared at midnight, the alert went, "Wake up, Alex," and he'd fix it. He'd be a legend in the post-mortem meetings. "Thank God for Alex," everyone would say. He worked 70-hour weeks, his phone permanently glued to his hand. When a team lead position opened up, Alex was sure it was his. He'd saved the company millions in downtime. He'd earned it. The job went to Priya, another engineer on his team. Priya, who, honestly, wrote less heroic code. But Priya was the one who de-automated the alert system so minor issues didn't wake anyone up. She was the one who documented the resolution processes so others could help. She was the one who mentored the junior developers. Alex was too valuable in the trenches to be promoted out of them. He was the heart of the emergency response, and you can't pull the heart out and expect the body to keep running. They needed him right where he was fighting fires. Sarah was starting to feel that. The promotions, the interesting strategic projects, the respect that wasn't just praise for putting out fires. It all seemed to float just over her head, going to people who acted differently. Watch them. You know who I'm talking about. The people who seem to move forward. They don't look frantic. They often leave on time. Their voices are calm. They say things like, "Let me check my priorities and get back to you." And instead of being seen as difficult, they're seen as professional, authoritative. One Thursday in early April, Sarah saw it clearly. She was scrambling at 5:45 p.m., trying to format a last-minute request from sales. Her heart was pounding, a nervous sweat prickling under her blouse. As she rushed to the printer, she passed the glass-walled office of Eleanor, a senior director. Eleanor was putting on her coat. She was laughing, saying goodbye to someone on the phone. "See you at the soccer field in 10, sweetie." She picked up her bag of beautiful, buttery leather tote, not a stuffed, overflowing laptop.
Have you ever felt like you're running on a hamster wheel, constantly busy but never actually getting anywhere? That was my life. Hi, I'm Sarah, and for years my title might as well have been corporate hero. If there was a last-minute project, a weekend fire to put out, or an impossible deadline, I was the one to call. I wore my always available badge with a strange sense of pride. I thought being indispensable meant being valuable. My calendar was a chaotic mosaic of back-to-back meetings. My phone buzzed incessantly with notifications, and my to-do list was a monster that grew new heads every time I chopped one off. I equated frantic motion with progress and busyness with importance. I was the office superhero, but honestly, my real superpower was running on fumes and caffeine. I was so caught up in being everyone's solution that I never stopped to ask if I was becoming my own problem. I was drowning, and I didn't even realize it because I was too busy trying to keep everyone else's head above water. My personal life? It was a ghost town. Hobbies were things I used to have, and friends were people I promised to catch up with soon. I was living to work, not working to live, and the price was getting steeper than I could ever imagine. It all came to a head on a spectacularly dreary Friday, the kind of day where the sky is just one big gray sigh, and the rain comes down in sheets, relentless and unforgiving. It was the perfect pathetic fallacy for my internal state. And then the universe decided to throw me a curveball. The internet went down. The entire building. No emails, no instant messages, no access to the cloud where our entire work lives were stored. The frantic digital hum of the office died, replaced by a strange, almost uncomfortable silence. At first, there was panic. People were pacing, rebooting their computers for the 10th time, and calling IT in a frenzy. I was right there with them, my heart pounding with a familiar anxiety. The deadline for the Q3 report was looming, and I was the linchpin. But as minutes turned into an hour, and then 2, a weird sense of calm started to wash over me. The storm outside raged on, but the storm inside me began to quiet. I looked around the office. People were actually talking to each other, not about work, but about their weekend plans, their kids, that new show everyone was watching. They were just being. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, I had nothing to do. I couldn't check my email. I couldn't update a spreadsheet. I couldn't respond to a single urgent request. My superpower of constant availability was rendered useless. So I just sat there at my desk and watched the rain streak down the window pane. Each drop seemed to wash away a layer of the artificial urgency I had wrapped myself in. I watched the patterns they made, the way they merged and split. And in that enforced stillness, a question bubbled up from a deep, neglected part of myself. If I'm not busy, who am I? If I'm not solving everyone's problems, what is my value? The question was terrifying. For so long, my identity had been completely enmeshed with my productivity. My self-worth was a direct reflection of how many tasks I could juggle, how many fires I could put out. Stripped of my ability to do, I was forced to simply be, and I had no idea who that person was anymore. It was a profound and unsettling realization. I wasn't a hero. I was just a person who had forgotten how to say no. I was a person who had traded her own well-being for a fleeting pat on the back. As the afternoon wore on, the internet remained stubbornly offline. The initial panic in the office had completely fizzled out, replaced by a kind of resigned, end-of-the-week cheer. People started packing up early. "Nothing we can do," became the happy refrain. But I stayed, still staring out the window. My mind, usually a chaotic whirlwind of deadlines and deliverables, was clear. I thought about all the weekends I'd sacrificed, the dinners I'd missed, the hobbies I'd abandoned. I thought about the constant low-grade anxiety that had become my background noise. I realized that by always saying yes, I was constantly saying no to myself. No to rest, no to peace, no to a life outside the four walls of my office. I had built my own cage, bar by golden, approval-seeking bar. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of possibilities I had long ignored. The world didn't fall apart because my inbox was inaccessible for a few hours. The company didn't collapse. The earth continued to spin. My frantic motion wasn't holding the universe together. It was just wearing me down to a nub. That rainy, disconnected Friday was the intervention I didn't know I desperately needed. It forced me to stop, to breathe, and to confront the unsustainable way I had been living. Just as I was starting to pack up my bag, feeling a strange mix of relief and trepidation, I saw Mark from the marketing team approaching my desk. Mark was a nice guy, but he was notorious for his just one quick thing. Requests that were never quick and rarely essential. He had that familiar, slightly panicked look on his face. My stomach clenched. The old Sarah would have already been opening her laptop, ready to dive in, ready to save the day. "Sarah, thank God you're still here," he started, his voice laced with manufactured urgency. "I know the internet's down, but I was hoping you could just quickly look over these draft slides for the Henderson pitch. I have them on a flash drive. It's for next month, but I really want to get a head start, and your input is just so valuable." He held out the small plastic drive like a lifeline. I looked at the flash drive, then at Mark's hopeful face. I heard the rain still tapping against the window. I felt the newfound quiet in my own mind. And for the first time, I felt the weight of what saying yes would cost me. It would cost me this fragile peace. It would cost me my first step towards a different way of being. My heart was pounding, but this time it wasn't from anxiety. It was from a new, terrifying, and exhilarating kind of courage. I took a deep breath, The words felt foreign in my mouth, almost like I was speaking a new language. Mark, I appreciate you thinking of me, and I'm happy to take a look, but I can't do it right now. I'm finishing up for the week. I braced myself for the pushback, the disappointment, the guilt trip. But it never came. Mark just blinked, a little surprised. Then he smiled. Oh, okay, no problem at all. You're right, it's the end of the day. It can wait until Monday. Have a great weekend, Sarah. And just like that, he was gone. He walked away, and the world didn't end. There was no drama, no fallout. It was simple. I just stood there for a moment, stunned. All this time, I had built up this no into a monstrous world-ending catastrophe in my head. But it was just a word, a simple, powerful, and liberating word. Saying no to Mark wasn't about him. It was about me. It was a declaration that my time was valuable, that my energy was finite, that my well-being mattered more than a non-urgent task. As I finally walked out of the office and into the fresh, rain-washed air, I felt lighter than I had in years. The sky was still gray, but for the first time I saw the promise of a sunrise. That small no was the first step on a much longer journey. It wasn't easy at first. The guilt would creep in. The old habit of people-pleasing would try to pull me back. But I held on to the memory of that quiet, rainy afternoon. I started scheduling breaks in my calendar, and I treated them as non-negotiable appointments. I turned off my work notifications after hours. When someone came to me with an urgent request, I learned to ask questions. What's the actual deadline? What happens if it waits until tomorrow? More often than not, the urgency was artificial. I discovered that setting boundaries didn't make me less valuable. In fact, it made me better at my job. I was more focused, more creative, and less burned out. My input became more thoughtful because it wasn't diluted by constant distraction. People began to respect my time more because I was finally respecting it myself. And the best part, I started rediscovering the person I was outside of work. I picked up my old guitar. I had dinner with friends, with my phone tucked away in my bag. I found joy in stillness, not just in motion. My story isn't about a dramatic, overnight transformation. It's about the small, consistent choices we make every day. It's about realizing that you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Your value isn't measured in how busy you are, but in how well you honor your own needs. If you're feeling trapped on that hamster wheel, maybe your rainy day is coming. Or maybe you don't have to wait for the internet to go down. Maybe you can give yourself permission to stop, to breathe, and to say that one small, powerful word. No. Thanks for listening. And if this story resonated with you, please subscribe for more. That was true. It was one of her 2 main goals for the quarter. Let me review this file first thing tomorrow morning. I'll give you a realistic timeline for when I can have it reformatted, or help find another resource if it can't wait. She read it over. It wasn't a no. It was a strategic, not right now. And here's why. It was professional. It was adult. It felt utterly alien. The cursor hovered over the send button. This was the cliff. The internal battle was a roar in her ears. Every muscle was tense. It was a physical fight against a decade of conditioning. She imagined Mark's frustrated face. She imagined Linda getting a complaint. The fear was cold and real. She clicked, send. The message whooshed away. Instant cold sweat. She immediately minimized Slack, as if watching a bomb she'd just released. She couldn't look. She got up, walked to the kitchenette in her apartment, and poured a glass of water. Her mouth was dry. She stared out the window at a gray Chicago sky, waiting for the sky to fall. 2 minutes passed. Silent. 5 minutes. Her phone didn't ring. No furious all-caps follow-up. At 10 minutes, a new Slack notification. A single, quiet ding. She flinched. She made herself walk back to her desk, sat down, and opened it. It was from Mark. "Okay, no worries. I'll see if our intern can tackle it. Thanks for the heads up." That was it. No explosion, no crisis. The world kept spinning. The client's meeting at 1 p.m. would happen with or without her. And she was free. She had just reclaimed the next 3 hours of her life. The win was microscopic. It wasn't a promotion or a raise. It was the simple, profound preservation of her own time and focus. She looked at the block on her calendar from 10 to 1. It was still hers. She felt a strange, light sensation in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it. It was control, a tiny, flickering sense of control over her own day. She opened her Q2 strategy deck and began to work. For the first time in months, she wasn't multitasking. She wasn't glancing at Slack every 30 seconds. She was just thinking. The work was clearer, sharper. She finished a full section an hour ahead of schedule. The quality was better. She could feel it. At 12:30, she stood up and made herself a real lunch. A sandwich, not just crackers eaten over the keyboard. She ate it at her small table, looking out the window, and she didn't check her phone once. The sun had broken through the clouds, and a patch of light warmed the floor. She felt that warmth on her socks. She heard the ordinary sounds of her building. A door closing down the hall, the faint sound of someone's TV. They were sounds of life, not just of work. This moment, right here, this discomfort, this quiet act of choosing your own priorities, this is the gym for your professional spine. It's where you build the muscle of boundary. And let me tell you a secret. This is where 95% of people quit. The discomfort feels like a warning sign. They mistake the fear of letting people down for a moral failure. So they go back. They say, yes, the next time, and the next, and the weight gets heavier and heavier until they can remember what standing up straight even felt like. But Sarah, in that sunny patch on her floor, was now in the 5%. She had sent the message. She had tolerated the terrifying silence afterwards. And she had discovered on the other side, not disaster, but daylight. The rest of her Monday was different. It wasn't magically easy. The old urges came back. At 4:45, a quick question popped up. Her finger itched to answer it instantly, but she remembered the feeling of the sun on her socks. She let the message sit. She finished her sentence. She waited 10 minutes, then wrote a concise, helpful reply. She didn't apologize for the delay. She just answered. At 5:30 p.m., she looked at her clock. Her most important work for the day was done. The fire drill task had been handled by someone else. She had a plan for tomorrow. For the first time in recent memory, she didn't feel hollowed out. She felt used. Well used. Like a good tool put away after doing its job correctly. She closed her laptop, not with a sigh of defeat, but with a gentle, deliberate click. The sound was final, satisfying. This was the first break. Not a break from work, but a break in the pattern. It was a single, silent word reclaimed. That word was later, or I'll check, or let me see. It was the space between a request and her response, a space that belonged to her. She didn't go out and celebrate. The victory was too quiet for that. She ordered her favorite Thai takeout, sat on the couch and watched a movie, a whole movie from start to finish, without pausing to check email. The pad Thai tasted like peanuts and lime and victory. The movie was funny, and her laugh in her quiet apartment was a real, unforced sound, As she got ready for bed, she looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. The woman looking back had the same tired eyes, but there was something new there, too. A tiny spark of curiosity. If one small, "not right now," could create 3 hours of peace and a better presentation, what could a week of this do? A month? She had created 90 minutes of her life back that day. Not by working faster, but by working smarter. By protecting her focus like it was the most valuable currency she had. Because it is. The cliffhanger was no longer a fearful, "What will they think?" It was an excited, quiet whisper. "What will I build with?" This time I just stole back. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But nobody tells you that the first step feels like stepping off a cliff into empty air. Sarah had just taken that step, and she'd discovered the ground was right there beneath her, solid and firm, waiting to hold her all along. The path forward wasn't about running faster on someone else's track. It was about quietly, bravely, building a track of her own. The glow from that good Monday didn't last forever. By Wednesday morning, Sarah felt the old pull. The sneaky voice in her head said, "See, you got lucky. Just go back to normal. It's easier." Changing your entire way of working isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily war, a quiet, persistent battle you fight in the trenches of your own habits against an enemy that looks a lot like your former self. Sarah knew if she didn't have a plan, she'd slide right back. So that Wednesday, April 9th, she started. Not with a grand xuan-yan, but with a simple, boring system. This is where the magic, the real, unsexy magic, actually happens. Her first weapon was what she called the 5:15 p.m. reprioritization. Every single day, without fail, she spent the last 15 minutes of her workday doing one thing, looking at tomorrow. She'd open her calendar and a fresh sticky note. She'd ignore the flood of meeting invites. Instead, she had to ask, what are the top 3 things that will actually move my goals forward? Not her boss's urgent whims, not the loudest person's request, her goals, the promotion-worthy ones. For her, that was owning a full marketing channel and showing its growth. One of those 3 things became the most important task. She'd block out 2 solid, untouchable hours on her calendar for it the next day, first thing in the morning if she could. She labeled the block, Deep Work, Channel Strategy. No one needed to know what that meant. It was a fortress wall around her focus. The first time she did this, it felt silly, a useless gesture. But when she opened her laptop the next morning at 9 a.m., that beautiful, empty green block was there. A gift from past Sarah. And it felt like a command. Do the important work first. Her second tool was the contribution log. This wasn't a to-do list. To-do lists are where tasks go to die. This was a running Google Doc, private, just for her. She stopped writing down things like answer 50 emails or attend budget meeting. Instead, she logged only impact. It looked like this. April 10th. Finalized and presented Q2 Instagram strategy to leadership. Projected 15% audience growth. April 12th. Automated the weekly performance report, saving an estimated 4 hours of manual work per month. April 15th. Mentored new hire, Sam, on our content calendar system. It was a record of her value, not her activity. After a week, she had 5 bullet points. After a month, she had a dense page of clear, undeniable results. When that voice of doubt hissed, "What have you even accomplished?" she could open that doc and have proof. It was her armor against imposter syndrome. Her old strategy was to take great notes and do all the work afterwards. Now she gave herself a mission. Ask one strategic question per important meeting, not a clarifying "what's the deadline" question, a forward-moving one. In a messy brainstorming session about a new product launch, she waited for a lull and said, "It sounds like we have a lot of great tactics. What is the one metric, just one, that would make this launch a success in the first 90 days? The room got quiet. Then her director said, "That's a great question, Sarah. I think it's user sign-ups." Suddenly the conversation had a target, and Sarah was the one who'd pointed to it. The fourth step felt scary. The micro-network. Once a week, every Friday, she sent one concise, value-packed update to a key stakeholder who wasn't her direct manager. She chose David, the head of product. Her email was never longer than 5 sentences. "Hi, David. Following up on our chat about user feedback. I led the Instagram campaign highlighting Feature X last week. We saw a 22% spike in clicks to the tutorial page. Anecdotally, comments were very positive. Thought you'd like to see the data." She attached a single, clean slide. No begging for approval. Just sharing a win that connected her work to his goals. For 3 weeks, she got brief, "Thanks," replies. On the 4th week, he wrote back, "This is great insight, Sarah. Let's sync next week. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the next phase." The final, most personal weapon was the ritual end. Sarah created a firm line between work Sarah and home Sarah. At 5:30 p.m., she would close her laptop, place it in a drawer, not just shut, but out of sight. Then she'd put on her sneakers and walk exactly 10 blocks to Lake Michigan, regardless of the weather. She'd watch the water, the birds, the other people, the sound of the waves and the city traffic mixed together. The chill spring air on her face. That 20-minute walk was her decompression chamber. By the time she turned around to head home, the tangled knots of the day had begun to loosen. Her brain understood. Work is over. I am more than my job.
Of course, there were setbacks. A major one happened in late April. A huge company-wide campaign was falling apart 2 days before launch. The panic was palpable. Slack channels were blowing up. Her old hero identity roared to life, a siren song of importance. She dove in. She worked until 11 p.m. for 2 nights straight. She saved a key component. She got the public thanks, and she felt awful. Drained, resentful, and behind on her own projects. It felt like a relapse. But here was the crucial difference. This time, she didn't see it as proof she was a failure. She saw it as data. She opened her contribution log and wrote April 28th to 29th, stepped into campaign emergency, stabilized asset delivery. Note, this derailed my own project timeline by 3 days. In future, define scope and handoff point before diving in. She didn't beat herself up. She learned. She course-corrected. The next week, she gently but firmly guarded her focus time again. Progress isn't a straight line. It's a messy, squiggly line trending upward. She wasn't doing this alone anymore, either. She'd cautiously mentioned her focus time experiment to 2 trusted colleagues. To her surprise, they were struggling with the same things. They started a tiny secret signal chat called the Focus Group. No complaining. Just weekly, they'd share, guarded my focus block 4 out of 5 days, or asked a strategic question in the ops meeting. It was accountability, but it was also solidarity. Doing this alone is a tough tactic. Doing it with others, even just 2, feels like a movement. You realize you're not broken. The system is. By mid-May, the visual timeline of her life was changing. If you could see it, it would look like this. Week 1, chaotic calendar, exhausted eyes. Week 3, first green focus blocks appear. A short, confident question in a meeting. Week 6, the contribution log is getting full. The Friday email to David gets a "let's sync" reply. Week 8, she's taking her lake walk even on busy days. Her personal time-lapse showed her shoulders less hunched, her smile more frequent, and her work the work in her log undeniably sharper. The soundtrack of her life changed too. The constant asterisk ding asterisk of Slack became a distant sound she checked on her schedule, not a leash that yanked her. The most common sound was the quiet hum of her own concentration, the feeling of the keyboard under her fingers as she built something substantial, the feeling of the late afternoon sun on her neck during her walk, a physical reminder that the world was big and she was a part of it, not trapped on a screen. She was winning the daily war, not with dramatic firefights, but with quiet, consistent discipline. She was building a new reputation, brick by brick, not as the frantic firefighter, but as the strategic builder. The work she stopped doing had quietly been absorbed by the team, or simply been revealed as unnecessary. The work she chose to do was starting to get noticed by a different audience. And that leads us to the most interesting question. After 90 days of this, who is that new audience? And what happens when the person who used to wait for permission starts to quietly, confidently grant it to herself? The battlefield of the daily grind was leveling out. She was no longer fighting for survival in the trenches. She was beginning to see the view from the hill. And let me tell you, the air up there is different. It was a Tuesday in early September when Sarah realized the change had become permanent. The air in Chicago had that first crisp bite of fall, carrying the smell of dried leaves and distant bonfires. She was walking to the coffee shop on the corner, not because she needed caffeine to survive the morning, but because she enjoyed the ritual. She held her phone in her hand, but it was silent. No urgent notifications, just a podcast playing softly in one earbud. Her mind was calm, ticking over a strategic problem for a campaign launching next quarter. It wasn't frantic, it was engaged. This was the new normal. The tangible benefits weren't just a feeling. They showed up in her bank account. In late August, after a quarterly review where she presented a single, clean slide deck built from her contribution log, she was given a surprise spot bonus of $7,500 for exceptional strategic ownership. Her manager, Linda, had said, "Sarah, the work you've done owning the Instagram channel is transformative. You're not just executing, you're leading." The promotion to senior marketing specialist was being formalized in the 2025 budget, but the weirdest part, it felt almost like a formality. The real shift in power, the respect, the authority she'd already built that brick by quiet brick over the past 6 months, she no longer helped with projects. She owned a key channel. When meetings happened about social strategy, they weren't scheduled without her. Her opinion was asked first. The one-to-one syncs with David from product had become a regular thing. They were conversations between peers, not updates from a subordinate. The work she did now had weight, and her time had a protected, valuable currency. If someone asked for something urgent that derailed her priorities, she'd say, "I can do that, but it will delay the channel analysis for next week. Which would you prefer?" She made the trade-off visible, and 9 times out of 10, they found another way.